Commissioner Strickland.
He's here.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Tripp.
Here.
Commissioner Walker.
Here.
Commissioner Wallace.
Excused.
And Commissioner Young.
Excused.
Thank you, yeah. Chairman Lee.
Here.
Co-Chair Paragoy here. Ex officio members, Alderman Bengal,
Here.
Alderman Best, Alderman Harris. We have a quorum, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Can you hear us, Commissioner Strickland?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, do we have any public comment tonight? Your public comment at all? Okay, all right, thank you. Next, we have an approval of the minutes for our July 14th meeting. Everyone had an opportunity to look at the meetings. Do we need any additions, corrections, or deletions?
One change, we have Commissioner Young being here twice. And he has impact, but not that much.
I'm like, today's gonna be the day. There's not gonna be one mistake.
Don't worry about
There's
it.
always tomorrow.
I've done it for 15 years. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
No mistakes, but I have a question. Are there minutes from the June 9 meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, we will get those, right?
Correct.
Okay, because I thought I was missing something. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
I saw that.
All right. Any other changes? If not, could we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the July 14th minutes as amended.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nays, ayes have it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Item number 4, we have a presentation by Habitat for Humanity of Cleveland County, and Ms. Antoinette is going to do that. I think she had a PowerPoint, but you see we got a technical difficulty or two, so she said that she could go ahead and do it. So.
Yes, I can swing it without it. Y'all will just bear with me. And I can actually email it over to you all so you'll have it
That'd be perfect.
to look at later. To start, I'm just going to pass this around. It is a guide for how we do neighborhood revitalization. One's really pretty, so forgive me, and one's black and white. But you can peruse it while I'm talking, just so you can get some idea visually. I'm going to use this post-it chart. We're just going to adjust accordingly to be able to move forward. Mike is not able to be with us since his regards, but I am excited to share with y'all what I love, which is neighborhood revitalization. Everybody knows we build homes. Y'all know we've done 48 new homes in the focus community. You know, we rehabbed one and sold it. You know, we've done 9 repairs. You know, we're partnered with a Tried by Fire, you know, that we help with United Worship Center. You know all these things, but today my goal is to tell you some things you don't know, and to really focus in on the other parts of neighborhood revitalization and habitat that don't necessarily deal specifically and focus in on new construction, okay? Now, our mission, we all know our mission, seeking to put God's love into action. Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope. And if you can see my PowerPoint, communities was really big and bold, okay? We've done a great job building homes. We've done an amazing job building hope. We haven't done as much building communities. And so that's where neighborhood revitalization comes in. We can build all the infrastructure we want. We can build all the homes we want. But where we really got to invest, where we have to invest for it to be sustainable, is in the people. And that is what neighborhood revitalization is. So, when you look at the word community, it's about feeling a fellowship with others. It's shared common attitudes, common goals that we all work on together, right? So, okay, we build homes, we fix homes, you know that. You know, we create all this hope of what could be. But let's talk about what it means to have community. Anybody ever heard of Clarence Jordan?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. This is what you want. text to us?
I will email that as well.
All right, thank you.
And the PowerPoint presentation, yes ma'am.
Thank you.
Clarence Jordan, if you don't know who he is the founding spiritual father for Habitat, okay? Clarence Jordan is quoted to say, what the poor need is not charity, but capital. Not caseworkers, but co-workers. Okay, let's think about that. When we talk about a caseworker, they're managing a case dealing with the family. If you talk about a co-worker, they're working alongside of you, developing the plans, implementing the plans. They're just as invested as you are in that particular project. That is neighborhood revitalization. Now, Habitat, housing, of course, is our forerunner. That's the catalyst we use for change. That's how we get in the community, all right? It's how we get in by meeting a need. But our real goal and what we are really looking to do is to build neighborhoods, okay? When Clarence Jordan was building these partnerships for affordable housing to build homes, he didn't go and say, I want to build this house. He talked about building neighborhoods, building community. That was his focus. So this it's not just about the houses, it's about community. That vision is the core of neighborhood revitalization, and it starts at the grassroots level with people determining the goals for their neighborhood. They're invested in. It's sustainable when the community, when the people are invested. So what is neighborhood revitalization? Okay. Now I had this really pretty graphic, right? And it has all of these agencies. You've got your residents at the center, you have Habitat over here, and then you have government and academia and medical institutions all around simply these residents, okay? With that, neighborhood revitalization is really Clarence Jordan's vision for housing. And 10 years ago, Habitat International decided we are going to go ahead and adhere to what local affiliates are already doing with neighborhood revitalization. It's our holistic approach to our traditional partnership with homeowners and expanding that reach to reach out to their neighbors and to also reach out to our partners and bring everybody to a table together. It's about partnership that carries out a shared vision, a vision that is developed and implemented based upon what the community identifies. And the cool thing about it is we can tailor our efforts. It's not like you have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 this specific way. There's some general guiding principles, and we tailor our efforts to a community because guess what? Every community is different. You can have the exact same community makeup demographic in a whole nother area, and what their needs look like and how you implement it is going to be different because all of those people are different. Okay? That's what neighborhood revitalization is. It's about outputs versus outcomes. It's great to say we built 48 houses and rehabbed a house, and it's great to have the numbers, but what really matters are the outcomes, those things that aren't necessarily tangible. How do people feel about where they live? How engaged are they in what's happening in their community? How informed are they about what's happening? How do they interact with local officials and organizations to push their shared vision forward? That's neighborhood revitalization. It's about engagement, and a lot of people use the word empowerment. Y'all, we can't empower people. They already hold power. We can help them to tap into and recognize that power, and that's what neighborhood revitalization is. It's assets-based community development, and that's a word I know everybody in this room is going to understand. It's about finding the strengths and using those strengths to fill in for those weaknesses and reach those shared community goals that in turn improve quality of life. So, for us at Habitat, there's this running quote we have, okay, by Lila Watson. If you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is tied up in mine, then let's work together. Okay, for us to really be liberated as a community, for us to overcome all of the things from our past that we're not too happy about, that we don't feel good about, that we know need to be different, for us to truly be liberated, we're going to have to do it together. It's not based upon this service approach of, I've got this, let's do it. It's more so, let's identify your strengths and let's work together to make it happen. That's neighborhood revitalization. And in order for us to excel, we've got to do it together. Let's be co-workers and not case managers, right? So, I wanted this because I wanted to draw something for you, and you'll see this graphic, but there's this graphic we have, right? Okay. And in this graphic, you've got your people. They're at the center. Their dreams, their goals, their ideas, their vision. It's what we call our quality of life framework, and it's the framework we use to shape our work, okay? So we have the people at the center, and then you talk about building a sense of community. So you got to build that sense of community. After you've built a sense of community, you then create social cohesion that leads to collective action. Is that my timer? Oh, I hope not. Okay, so it leads to collective action, okay? So for us, these are foundational. We can't go anywhere in revitalizing our community until we establish these three areas, okay? And then on the outside of these areas, you'll see things like transportation, amenities, health, education, housing. By virtue of reaching these foundational outcomes and establishing them strongly, we get the sector outcomes we're looking for that improvement in access to good quality education and healthcare and housing and the amenities that help to improve our life, right? So when we talk about this quality of life framework, it starts with a pre-assessment that we do with the residents, with the organizations we're partnering with. We then take that assessment and we all sit down and we evaluate it and we figure out what's missing. Are these things emerging? Are they not there at all? And then we all develop a plan of action that we implement so that we can make sure we reach these core areas so that the work we do to revitalize is sustainable, okay? And it even comes with a post-assessment. How well do we do at it and where do we need to improve? Now let's talk about these three areas. A sense of community is how you identify with your neighborhood, whether you feel connected and whether you feel supported. Now that doesn't just relate to the residents, it also relates to the partner agencies who are the stakeholders who are at the table with them. Do we feel like we're supporting each other and we're connected? We all know we got some work we're doing on that. We're all putting forth the great work and trying to bridge that gap, right? So how have we been building sense of community? We've been doing block walks, door walks, knocking, sitting on stoops, talking. We've been at community meetings. We've held block parties. We're building partnerships. And through those things, we're learning a lot about the neighborhood. We're learning a lot of history. We're learning a lot about what's happening that maybe everybody's not talking about, but it's talked about amongst neighbors. And through that, it's also revealing to us some of the visions of the community. Where do they want to park? What activities do they want for their kids? What do the elderly need? We're looking at demographics, we're mapping, we're figuring out who's who, where are they, what's the local talent, what are the local nonprofits, where are the leaders that we can help to build up in the community, okay? It's the I know you and I like you. It's about interaction and information in a formal and informal way. And through these things, we learn what's happening. So we've located some local talent, right? We've located some people who want to step up to be leaders. One is in the room now. And with that in mind, we defined with the community what a resident leader was. Because really to do this, you got to bring leadership out of the community. You got to bring leadership out of the community. That's a must. We've developed this, we've broken the area down into 12 blocks. We've identified, I got 2 of them actually. We've identified 6 people who stepped up to say, I want to lead. I want to be at the table and be that person that helps mend the bridge, mend the relationship. So a byproduct of it would be, we'd be able to mend the trust and relationship between the community and the city and the Redevelopment Commission. That's one of the goals, building that relationship, okay? It's key to have your leaders. The other thing we think about with social cohesion is the willingness to assemble and work together. We've done this through the resource fairs, and actually, one of the big ways you can see social cohesion on a smaller scale that you've already seen was that cleanup. That cleanup was led by residents, and the rest of us just came behind them and said, okay, how can we help? What do you want to see done? That can happen on a much larger scale than just a cleanup. It's completely, absolutely possible. That was collective action. The overall goal is the ability to mobilize a diverse group of residents and stakeholders to act and advocate. We're doing that through the health committee, that health working group. It's being able to see neighborhood revitalization on that scale. We're talking about social determinants of health and how they impact quality of life. And the reality is all of these things intersect, okay? All of them intersect, whether you're talking housing, whether you're talking education, they all intersect. And it's important that we recognize that when we create a social, physical, and economic environment that fosters the ability to attain the full potential of health and well-being with residents at the center, it is sustainable. They will continue the work. So for us, we're going to continue our next steps. We're going to get these resident leaders trained. We've got some training we're working on for them so that they can understand how these processes work and come to the table and be educated to work with you all as well as all the other agencies. We're going to continue to work on establishing a line of succession for leadership so that it's not something that, oh, the wind blew, the bridge is broken, and now we have nobody to step in and keep the bridge strong so that those relationships don't fall apart. We're going to continue to address home ownership and repairs, but we're also going to continue to work to bring all of these agencies together. We've been having conversations with CCA and all of these housing agencies on how can we address this piece. We were one of the founding agencies for the Resource Council and trying to figure out, okay, how do we fill these gaps? And how do we do it and let residents lead us? We have a shared common goal. That shared common goal is improving quality of life. And the World Health Organization defines that as an individual's perception of their position in life in the context of the culture and value systems in which they live. Our quality of life is impacted by our social determinants of health, and it encompasses our economic stability, our access to education, health, our neighborhood, our environment, and the social and community context in which we identify. So, what are we asking you for today? I tried to squeeze a lot in a little bit, okay? The arc of justice stretches far wide, and when it leans towards good. So all we have to do is continue to do good work. What we're saying is, you don't have to hire an executive director. You don't have to recreate the wheel. The entity you were looking for at the last meeting is us. And we're ready to expand that partnership.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, item 5 is a request from Angelo Newkirk Jr. to purchase parcel ID 8-020-134, and you should have received that information in your packets. The Thoughts Commission. Or let me ask staff first. Is anything out of the ordinary?
I received the request. Since we don't really have a process for dealing with these, I bring them to the commission on an individual basis as I receive them. I did receive a comment that I should put the address in. I would have if the parcel had an address in the GIS. I defaulted to the PID number and provided you some maps. Your typical Duffield parcel in the floodplain.
Are the properties next door though have addresses?
Yes.
Why would
I
that,
have no idea.
don't you think that's really
I
strange?
think it's very strange, yes.
So what is the address next door then?
I don't know, Robbie.
What street?
Washington.
Pull it up on your screen.
Okay. Dig it in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Morgan, I think it may be 1422.
1422?
Oh, okay.
Maybe adjacent.
If you can see that, that's black and white, but,
Yeah.
yes, it's a corner lot, yes, sir.
1422 Washington.
So it wasn't part of another parcel, it wasn't part of these addresses, it's its own parcel.
Yeah.
Do we have a structure on there that we tore down?
I don't know.
Because if the city and county owned it, I don't know.
Well, we wouldn't have gotten it if it was city county owned. So it's Redevelopment Commission on property, which the city.
We'd have got it some way. And then-
But does the redevelopment area go down into 1422?
Yes.
1400 block.
Yeah.
So that's the last block.
No, it goes all the way.
Oh, we go all the way to Clark
Goldsboro
Avenue.
Garden, we're all in there.
No, but we go up to Clark Avenue as it
Yeah.
relates to Washington Street. We only go up to Clark Avenue.
Where is it? I don't see Clark.
Clark is what crosses over, is what is perpendicular.
Oh, yeah, I see Clark. No, because you've got Lark you're talking about. Is that Lark or Clark? It says Lark. L-A-R-K.
There's a Clark and there's a Lark.
This one says Clark, and then the street over is Carver, and then Dillahunt is the next
Okay, so what you're
intersection
talking-
over.
Right. Okay. So you're talking about right behind J.T. Barber School then?
Yeah, it must be Lincoln Street is the next
Okay.
street over.
I was just trying to get the area. I know the area.
It's right close to the Duffield Canal too, it looks
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, it goes over to Clark Road.
Thank you.
Thoughts, Commissioner Morgan?
Just trying to figure out.
I'm just trying to figure out the proximity of where we are.
Do we know what the purpose is for the purchase? Do we know why,
No.
why they want to buy it?
We do not.
So did I hear you say it's in the floodplain?
It is.
All the limitations right here. Commissioner Strickland, thoughts?
No, ma'am, none right now.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Vice Chair?
Yeah, the new Kirk family owns all the vacant land in that
Yeah.
general vicinity there. And this is a request to acquire another vacant lot. It is in the floodplain. I think the highest point in that lot's 8 feet according to the NCDOT contours. Being in the floodplain, it limits us into what we can certainly do with it as a redevelopment commission and our resources. And so we just went through the process of recommending the sale of a property to the city last meeting, as I recall, with our deliberations. So it's not unusual that we do this on properties that we have no interest in or no opportunity to create something that meets the mission of the redevelopment commission. Let's put it that way.
Mr. True. Thoughts?
If they want to buy it, I don't see, like you just said, you know, if we have no interest in it as a city.
Today.
Today, yeah. But if it's in the flood zone,
It's 11 feet out there. Is that what it is?
8, he said.
About 8, but basically that thing's
It's 9, isn't it?
9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
so
that
we're not
area.
looking at any noticeable difference to build. Now, we wouldn't be able to use federal funds, obviously, in the floodplain, but private funds can be used, obviously.
Do we own anything around it that we could
Haphazard,
compile
No, we don't have enough to.
No.
to make a difference on something?
So if we do decide to sell, city ordinance is gonna come into play.
Correct.
With it being 8-foot floodplain, then they have to follow all of the usual city ordinance as it relates to what they can, what they cannot do, because we already know what we can and what we cannot do, correct?
Yeah, any construction will have to have a finished floor elevation of 11 feet.
Now, are we talking about the general sale price, or do we have a tax value on it, or is it gonna be that bottom line?
6,000.
6,000.
6,000, yes.
And you can, and you know, the alderman, we said ours was 50%. That was the minimum bid because it has to be a upset bid. Now, I think this still has to be upset bid.
Correct.
But we can set a minimum.
Correct. You
acceptable
can
bid.
set a separate. We just, as the Board of Aldermen, set the 50%.
50% of tax value
Correct, as the minimum.
as the minimum, and then there's the upset process.
Correct.
Okay.
Chairman Lee, I do have a question now whenever it comes back around for me to have an opportunity.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Just for the ease of the process on this, and I'm trying to look at Jamie like I normally would in one of these meetings, but I can't. Is there such a thing as us, as a board, sitting down and identifying strategic pieces of property that either we can have a glut of or that are in a particular area that's of interest to us doing larger scale development? Is there any latitude for us to identify those parcels and then effectively group the remaining parcels as non-strategic, I guess we could say, and take those to the Board of Aldermen in one lump group and get a preliminary agreement from them for us to be able to sell those for, say, not less than the value that they would do, so 50% of tax value. So that way that would avoid us having to go through this one-off process step by step whenever we do things. And that would also force us to identify properties that are of great importance to us whenever we're doing this, and kind of establish a little bit of a process for delineating between the ones we intend to use and the ones we don't see a use for right now.
That is a very good question, Commissioner Strickland. The statute simply requires that the governing board approve the sale. There's no language in the statute that prohibits, or I guess specifically prohibits, aggregating those lots or making a request en masse. So legally, is it possible? Yes. I think one question, in the last instance where this board agreed to sell a parcel, the governing board is going to have to evaluate whether the sale is consistent with the redevelopment plan. So in aggregating those lots or doing a mass ask, you'd have to be creative about how you can specifically articulate how each of those lots, the sale of each of those lots is consistent with the redevelopment plan, and identifying redevelopers that would be interested, redevelopers as is defined by the statute, to acquire those lots, because that's another statutory requirement that you have to have. I think you could, but we have to explore how to check all the boxes statutorily.
Well, we've got an attorney at the table to figure out the creativity part, right?
Absolutely.
Sorry, Jamie, this is one of the few times I get a chance to do that to people. Normally I'm the one catching those requests.
So the fact of the matter is that the city of New Bern is property rich in that area, in the redevelopment area, and we would be having a piece of property that would cost us more of a headache if we're going to try to do anything with it and develop it versus selling it to somebody who wants to buy, taking the $6,000 and allotting it to somewhere where it's needed.
And somebody will pay taxes on it then too.
And Jamie, I believe Commissioner Morgan just made the case for us that $6,000 is of greater value than a piece of property that we have no intended strategic use for. But again, one of the things I like about that is that would force us as a commission to have to identify those properties and have a list A and a list B, and we'll kind of know where we're going forward. So then whenever requests like this come up in the future, we can clearly say, that's on the wrong list, we're keeping those, sorry. Versus if it's not, then okay, we can make your offer, and it's going to start here, this threshold.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very strategic move for the commission to do. I would like, before we do that, to get the issue of the county city-owned properties resolved and transferred to us so that we don't have to do that 4 or 5 times.
When that happens, or when we see that map, I can pull it up. We may find that we have and there are additional properties that this one may sit in the middle of 2 that are in pre-tax foreclosure. And then it becomes a larger parcel that may have value. So that's a great point, because when you overlay Redevelopment Commission owned parcels with joint city county owned parcels, and then you look at the pre-foreclosures, and we just got the foreclosure list a couple weeks ago, and there's more property in our area adjacent to property that we already own. That's coming online every quarter.
Hey, Jeff, on that note, on those overlays, the varied overlays between the pre-foreclosure and the county, are there any other properties in the proximity of this one that we're discussing tonight that would be coming our way then?
Nothing. I really have to look at the map. Nothing caught my eye, but there were some that did catch my eye in other areas of the redevelopment boundary. So I think it's probably worth to sit down and look at that. We can pull all those maps up, pre-foreclosures, joint city and county owned properties, and redevelopment commission owned properties, and probably get a better idea of if we want to keep something or not. A lot like this may be the donut hole in the middle of a larger area that we don't really know about yet.
Okay. Yeah, this one on the table. So what is your?
Jeff, what did you get a sense of any urgency for?
All I got was a letter mailed.
Letter? Okay.
With no phone number, just an email.
Okay.
Did you say this was from William, from Angelo?
Angelo.
Angelo, okay.
Levine, you have something?
Well, I would like to see you maybe table this and give Jeff an opportunity to look at those overlays and whatever and get a better sense. I believe Scott's been working on that county stuff for a while. It's a little more,
Labor intensive.
yeah, it is. So we're doing everything possible. It's a priority for us, and we're doing everything possible to get to that point. But I think the more information you can have as what's available to potentially to the commission, so you can lay your plans out, so you circle and say, this is flood zone, we'll never have any need for that, or it's this. I just think you should hold off if it's not pressing to somebody, and, you know, get some more information.
That's what I was getting at
Yeah.
with the, is there an urgency from a buyer to build a house for someone or something along those lines? But lacking that information, I tend to agree that we table this for this meeting until we can ascertain our ownership priorities and determine those priorities in a meaningful way that will meet our commission goals and mission.
Mr. Walker? Consensus? Consensus for?
Yes.
Consensus.
Okay, we need a formal motion to table. Make a motion that we table the request to purchase the Washington Street property until our October meeting. It gives us 2 months to pull together this information.
Second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. Thank you.
What was that date, please? It's tabled until October
Our October meeting.
meeting? Thank you.
Committee updates. Health and Wellness. First, you should have received your report from Commissioner Cho. You went out to everybody, right?
Yes, that was part of the agenda package.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Probably was Monday after.
Okay. They are continuing to work. I think they had a meeting yesterday or tomorrow.
We were gonna, they were gonna have a meeting today, but it got canceled.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. She sent the update, but they are still working, so we look forward to hearing from them next month then. Okay.
Well, they're saying that they're going to have a big event prior to our next meeting.
Is it prior to our next meeting?
It's on September 11th.
Oh, yeah, it probably is.
I think our next meeting's the 8th.
The 8th.
Yeah, September 8th is our
Okay.
next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm glad you check my calendar. I'm ready for that.
Because I know the Board of Alderman meeting's the 7th, so we're always the 7th.
You owe me one.
All right. I'll stop by and harass you.
Okay.
We need to make sure that's on the agenda though for the meeting in September, for somebody just to present and talk about it so we can make sure the word's getting out.
Right. Okay. Housing working group.
Sure, that was a small update provided in your packet. So the 9/11 Eubanks lot has been cleared. If anyone drove by it, they would have seen an enormous oak tree sitting in the back of the property, probably 400 years old. That has been removed. The lot's been cleared of the remaining debris and shed that we found while we cleared out some of the debris back there. Surveyor was queued up to go out there and survey the footings for the foundation. I have not been able to confirm that that's been done. I haven't been able to drive by to see if it's been flagged or not yet, but I will do so. Good news is that on the 6th, HUD in Greensboro approved our request to use CDBG funds to relocate and rehabilitate the Gaston House. So that's all just ready to go now. We just need to we'll just move forward with the relocation process. Mover is still on board, working with the surveyor and the fellow that's going to do the foundation and the footers, I guess, to just coordinate all that timing. And, so that's moving forward. Do I have a question?
I have a question. What are you gonna do with that lot at Eubank Street?
The house that's currently at 602 Gaston, which is right behind the Black Swan,
Right.
across from, okay, so you know where that is. We're gonna relocate that onto that lot
Okay.
and rehabilitate it, and then rent it to low-lot income individuals. So good news there.
Yep.
After this meeting, this our housing group's gonna spend a few minutes and get a day and a time down where we can meet with Regina to talk about the phase 2 deliverables. Everyone's been on vacation for the past few weeks, and it's been tough to get everybody together, but we're working on that so we can move forward on that. So our First Street property acquisition, I spoke with seller Monday, he called me. All the structures are empty except one, and, which I think was empty when we first started, so it's a little confusing to me how someone got in it. But again, he has until the 8th of September to meet the terms of our agreement, or Jamie gets involved. And that's moving ahead, so that's.
Yes, Pastor Bern? You have a
Just a
question?
quick question, Sharon, just for clarification that maybe somebody could help me. The church I went and looked, we were looking at a small piece of property next to the Masonic Lodge. It's a small piece. We went to the county and the city, and they said it was too small for them to do something with, but it was still on hold. Should we go back to them now, or with all of this transformation now, how would we, who do we go to deal with now to try to acquire that little piece of property?
Still in joint ownership, is that?
Yes.
Owned by the city and county?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I went to the county, then they sent me back to the city. Both of them offered to sell me the property. They said it was listed for $4,000, but that they was gonna work with us. But when she went to pull it up for us to buy it, they said it couldn't be sold at that time because it was in the moratorium. So now that it's lifted, should I go back to them, or is it in your hands? I guess that's my question.
Yeah, I don't know, we can look at a map and
What's the address?
give you an answer.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's the address?
excuse me,
What's the address?
You know.
what's another address?
Main Street.
Who?
It's on Main Street.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just trying to
Okay,
think.
okay. You can let us know afterwards.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, yes, you get it. Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else from neighborhood?
That was housing, neighborhood. You see our staff's been very active in the community with the nuisance abatement. A lot of effort in the past month or so with our minimum housing officer, Patrick, to deal with the Eubanks property that collapsed into Main Street. So moving forward with all that. I didn't get an update from him this month, and I felt bad asking him for one because he's been running ragged all over the place, but we'll have that for you next month on the work that he's doing. Really, Jamie knows, been working specifically on a house on Miller Street. Right now that seems to be a problem, but many notices going out to landowners with structures on their property that don't meet minimum code.
Okay.
Robbie?
Excuse me, I can give you an update on the Eubank Street property that was formerly Government Road store, that it has been, there were barriers up. They did complete the time frame that had been allotted, and that the building is actually gone, and it has been removed, and is a vacant lot now. And Main Street is a thoroughfare again down on that block, and it's gone, it's clear. Now, what's next as it relates to that property?
Well, it's the property owners, they still own it.
Yeah.
They just have a lien against their property for the cost of removal. So either they'll, at tax time, they'll They'll pay that, it's attached to their tax bill. They don't pay it, then the city would start.
I had a conversation with them personally, and I didn't know if they went on and signed off then, or if they're gonna go through the process.
There's really no process. The process happened, and Jeff, you can jump in, but the process has happened, and they did not respond. They had 30 days to respond to the process. And when they didn't, it gave the city the right to tear it down because it was unsafe and whatever, they didn't meet the code. So at that point, it is just a vacant lot that they own. They still own it. There's no other process. The process will be at tax time. They'll have a bill for, what did it cost? $20,000 that they have to pay for the removal of that building. And either they pay it, and then that's it. It's still their property. They don't have to do anything else, or then the city can foreclose on them after, again, the law steps in. We have a process for that.
And that's the process I was speaking of, because I
They're not gonna
have
pay it.
spoken with them. They don't plan on paying it. They're not gonna pay it, and
Did Mr. Lee may want to return my phone call?
I'll let him know.
I'd be happy to talk with him about what, if any, options exist at this point.
exactly. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely want to, make sure they know all the process.
Right, and that was the process I was asking about.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other neighborhood report? Okay, all right. Any old business this evening? New business? Okay. Well, if there's nothing else.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay.
Second time.
Yeah. And I apologize for jumping up to she was one of my students. Graduated from a grassroots leadership academy.
Oh, okay.
And I hadn't seen her, and I knew she had been really sick.
Mr. Chair, call the question.
This
And
is,
the second, our attorney needs a vote.
We need a motion with a
got a
second.
motion
We got a
and a
motion, need a second.
We got a second.
Got a second. All
to
right,
vote on
any further questions, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nay? Ayes have it. We are now adjourned.